People give up. They might have that strong desire, the fire in the belly, they've got the plan, but then they give up. Life gets in the way, something happens, and you hear excuse after excuse after excuse after excuse.
It doesn't just fall out of the sky into your lap. You go, oh, there we go, there's property portfolio, cool. Now let's wait for the HMO portfolio to drop out of the sky into my lap.
Welcome to This Property Life podcast, brought to you by Property Wealth System. My name is Caroline Claydon, and I'm joined today by Nick Claydon, who is a property mentor and has been mentoring people one-on-one out in the field, actually buying and setting up their property businesses. Today, we are going to be talking about why people fail or what mistakes they make and how they could improve it. So I hope that our listeners today are going to learn from other people's mistakes and hopefully cut out any of the long-winded journeys we've seen other people take to reach their destinations. Nice for joining us, Nick. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. We might mention that we are husband and wife team.
Probably should mention that.
We should mention that. We've been investing together, getting on 16, 17 years, I would say now.
Yeah, okay. That's right. And for 10 years, I invested completely wrong. And you pretty much did the same. So when we were on our own, we had a stab at this property game, but didn't get very far. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, we were dabblers and we were being a bit amateur. So it was time to get professional. So so what have we learned over the years in terms of why we've seen people fail?
Yeah.
Okay. So a few things I think to talk about here. Not in any particular order. I think one of the main reasons why people fail is that they don't really know why they're doing it.
Yeah.
They don't have a clear vision or understanding of why am I doing this. I've seen people get into property because they just think it's a route to being rich or wealthy or whatever. And they're doing it really just for the money. And I think that's probably the biggest fail that I come across, and I have come across in the years that I've been mentoring people. If they're just in it for the money, it's probably not going to work because it's not a get-rich quick thing, property. And I think there's a lot of people out there that think it is. Put it this way, if you go on YouTube, you'll see lots and lots of people talking about become financially free in a week and all this nonsense. It's just not true. It's a get-rich slow thing. So I think that's a big mistake. Is attitude going in is, I want to be wealthy now, rich now. Well, okay, property probably isn't for you. It's not the right vehicle.
Well, as husband and wife, we can obviously challenge each other, right? Well, you said get rich slow. Your definition of slow and someone else's definition of slow might be very different, because I think people can create financial security and wealth for themselves within 2 years of doing this, which if you compare 2 years to 40 years in a job, I don't think is slow.
Yeah, no, it's all relative, isn't it? So when I talk about get rich, what I'm talking about is the dreamers who want to come in and they think of yachts and planes and boats and all this kind of stuff, right? That is not something that is a quick thing. Learning how to replace your income with property can be done quickly. I mean, we did it in just over a year. By a lot of definitions, that would be pretty quick.
Yeah.
And definitely how we train people and how we teach people is that if you've got, a set target that you want to achieve, property can absolutely do that for you. 100%. Right. So I'm definitely not disagreeing. I think it's just a terminology thing. I was talking about the people that want to get into property because they want to be rich. Okay. And they think that's an overnight thing. And it really isn't. For me anyway, right? It's not about the money. It really isn't. Property is a vehicle that gets you where you want to go. And it can do that quickly. You can do it slowly over time. There's 100 ways to make money in property. But I think the really important thing, or the thing where I see people fail, is getting into it without really knowing why they're doing it or what they're trying to achieve. They don't have a really clear pathway. And when that pathway is, when we work with people and we help them to open that up and to see the vision and to see where they can go with this. That's when you really see people engage with it and become really successful.
Okay, so I'm going to, again, play devil's advocate. People getting into property for the money. Well, they don't do it for the love of the bricks and mortar, do they?
Yeah.
Yes, it's a vehicle to create money, and there's nothing wrong with someone being motivated by money. It's just we want to dig a little deeper under what does that money mean for them. So for some people, the money is the yachts, the Ferraris, and the watch collection, and that's okay. It's just that it's going to take time to get to that stage, and might be 2 years, it might be 3 years before you get, your watch collection or whatever it might be. And I don't see there being any issue with someone being motivated by money, but I know that when you're mentoring them, you're like, but what is it about the money that you really like?
Correct.
And it's fundamentally behind the money element that we really want to focus on. And I guess people don't think too long and hard about, starting with the end in mind. I just had a meeting with another business owner this morning, and she's not paid herself out of her business for years. And now she's saying, you know what, now I want to pay myself. And I said, well, you got to work out how much do you want to take out every single month, and then work back from there. What does the business need to generate in order for you to get that pay every month? So the money element has to be a big important part, but it's fundamentally not the whys and the reasons behind getting involved in it.
I'm going to push back on you this time. Okay, I'm going to say, look, money's a tool, right? That's all it is. Nobody loves actual money, right? If you do, I think that's a bit weird, because money is a means of doing the things you actually want to do. For me, there's got to be something behind it. It's when you dig into it, and this is what I do when I'm out working with people in the field, is, look, you can say, yeah, I want money, I want to be rich, I want money for whatever. It's like, okay, well, what do you want this money for? And when you really dig into it, it's really, really rare that it is about the actual money. It is normally always about lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's normally always about time. Examples, right? Somebody might say to me, I want 10 grand a month in income. Okay, what for? Oh, well, because I want to travel, I want to spend time with the family. I want to do, I want to be able to go on really nice holidays. Okay, cool. Right, let's dig into that. Okay, so travel. Where do you want to go? Okay, how are you getting there? How long are you going for? When you say travel, do you mean I want to go on nice holidays, or do you mean I want to take 5 years off and go see the world? Those two things are totally different things.
Yeah.
Right. So, it's when you start digging into it that you really get the real understanding of what is driving someone. And when you show them that, I think, well, look, actually a minute, put the 10 grand to a side that you've plucked out of the air to say that's what I want. Let's start from a different position. Let's start from, okay, paint me a picture of your lifestyle aspiration.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and what timescale? So is that a 3-year timeline, 5-year? But, I wouldn't go further than 5, really, because if it's further than 5, it's like, well, are you going to really do something today towards something that's 10 years time? Probably not. 3 to 5 is about the sweet spot, I'd say. Yeah. Or what do you want your lifestyle to be like in 3 years time? Because that's quite immediate if you want to do a big change anyway. So you get them to paint that picture of, okay, well, look, I want to be out of my job. I don't want to be working for somebody anymore. I want to be having, I've got two kids, who are 11, 12 years old. We've only got a small window of time before they're 17, 18 and doing their own thing. So you might have a 5-year window. You want to take them on really nice holidays. Cool. Okay, what kind of holidays do you want? Want to go to Disneyland? I want to go to I want to go to Australia. So these are things you start drawing out. Say, okay, great. So we can then create that vision, that lifestyle, and then we can go back and cost it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we go back.
Because lots of people overestimate how much they actually need.
Yeah.
And we've lost count between us. How many people have said to us, I want 6 grand, 8 grand, 10 grand, 12 grand. And then when you boil it all down, actually all they need is 4.
Yeah. They might need 4 for their income, and then they might need 20 grand to do their holidays.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, we can work with that, because now we know, okay, we need to create 4 grand in income from property a month. And realistically, that could be 4 HMOs.
Yeah.
Could be 1 service accommodation unit.
Yeah.
It could be 10, 15 buy-to-lets, different ways of doing it. So then we've got that 4 grand, and then we say, okay, now you want your holiday fund. Cool, that's another 20. So let's build a flipping a property into that simple flip deal.
Yeah.
So we can start turning the vision, paint the picture into actual reality, what it actually means in terms of money that you really need, and then the strategies that you can employ to get there. And then suddenly you're turning this dream of, I want 10 grand a month. Well, it's not really about the money, is it? But you're turning that into, actually, I want this lifestyle, this is how much I need to do it. These are strategies I can employ to get there. And these are then the actions I need to be taking today, this week, and next week to move me along that path.
It's a fundamental why people don't get to the destination is because they're not really clear on what the destination looks like or feels like.
A lot of people get that bit wrong, and they just focus on the money. And it's very rarely, in fact, in 15 years, I've never had anyone when it is actually purely about money. It's never about money.
I remember I met a couple of boys that, I say boys, but just because they were miles younger than me, lads in their 20s, full of ambition and aspiration. And I said, what's your goal? What are you trying to do? And they were, we want a portfolio worth 150 million. And, my old head on my shoulders, Riley smiling to myself going, guys, that is driven entirely by ego. Like, what's a 150 million pound portfolio actually mean to you on your day-to-day basis? And they couldn't answer it. They just plucked that number out of thin air, and it was just like, because that's big, and their ego was driving everything. So we've seen an awful lot of people just plucking figures out of thin air without real clear consideration about what that means and what it looks like. And I think, and not to be too feminine about it, but what it feels like. And I think if you start feeling like you've already achieved that and what it's going to mean for you, it has even more power behind it.
There's a lot of people that kind of shy away from that, and they don't actually want, they put a barrier up when you start talking about how you feel about things. But my barometer for this is, right, if I speak to somebody and say, okay, what's your vision? And they tell me something, I say, does it make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up when you think about it? Right? Do you get a bit kind of, feel a bit emotional when you think about it or talk about it? And if you don't, it's not strong enough. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't mean enough. You just plucked it out of the air. So this is a big barrier that we have to overcome. And I think it is a big reason why some people do fail. I'll say this to all my mentees that I work with. It's easy to go and buy houses, right? You can go and buy a house. You can literally go out tomorrow, go to an estate agency, you can view a house, you can buy it. Okay, that's really quite easy.
Yeah.
But buying a property that ties into a vision that you have about your lifestyle that you're trying to create, and you can see a pathway to build up that property business until you can get to that point, that is a wholly different thing. Right? And that's a completely different way of thinking about property. So anyone that comes to me with the ego of it's all about the money, or I just want to buy houses, I want nice, you see people that come in and want the new build houses or the nice, beautiful looking buy-to-let portfolio. I mean, see some of ours. Right? No offense to anyone that lives in places where we invest, but they're not the best houses, are they? We don't kind of showcase our portfolio and go, look at all our lovely houses. But I tell you what,
they work hard.
On the spreadsheet, they look pretty good.
Yeah, they work hard. So we've established that one of the main reasons that people fail is this complete lack of clarity in the destination and what that looks and feels like for them. Let's imagine that they've got that clear and they're motivated by it. They're absolutely clear on the strategy that they're going to adopt, and they start. What then can potentially go wrong for them?
I think the biggest one for me would be thinking they can do it on their own. And this is, again, ego. I think there's a lot of people that I talk to and have coached and mentored who, they just think, well, why do I need help? I can just do this. I've watched a couple of YouTube videos. Pretty easy, right? I can just go out and start building this. Well, I can just do HMOs. Have you bought a house before? No, but HMOs are where I want to be. Okay. And that's when I think people can, get themselves into trouble, because, if you look at our team.
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking about it the other day because we're in the process of recruiting another staff member. But we actually, when we looked at our wider team, I mean, there was a lot of people there, and they all bring something to the table. Yeah. And it's something that there's no way that we could have done this on our own.
Yeah.
It's our job to kind of create the vision and to bring the drive and the motivation. But then we've got all our team members that are helping support and drive it. If you think about our team, planning consultants, we've got interior designers, we've got marketing people, we've got hotel managers, we've got cleaning teams,
web designers,
web design, legals, mortgage, finance brokers, angel investors. Yeah, it just goes on and on. It's just not something you can even conceive of doing on your own. I've literally come across students of mine that have started off, I've given them tasks to do, to start working towards their vision or whatever. They come back and say, well, what did you? Well, I spent a couple of hours researching mortgages. So I'm like, what? Hang on a minute. You did what? And they literally spent 2 or 3 hours on Google trying to find mortgage deals. I'm like, well, why are you doing that? That's a low value task. For you, go to a professional. That's their one and only thing that they do. Oh, but they charge fees, don't they? Yeah, of course they do. You pay people fees to do the work that you don't want to do. Unless you're a trained solicitor, you can't do your own conveyancing. So you pay a fee for that, right? And it's the same. So yeah, people think they can do it on their own. And that's the ego, really. I think, again, you've got to keep your ego in check.
I mean, you touched on something really interesting there, which is a common mistake people make. And I have to say, I've fallen into this a number of times. And that is trying to save the cost of a service by doing it myself. So I don't know, setting up email addresses and techie stuff, which I cannot do. That should be outsourced. Outsourcing, yes, it's going to cost you money, but the amount of time it's going to save you in the long run, and that time that you then get back, not wasted doing something you're not that good at, you can then be spending on high value tasks like finding another deal or sourcing an angel investor. So I say to my students, don't look at the cost of the shovel while you're digging for gold. But being Scottish, it's in my blood to be tight. And so I'm always looking on how I can save cash. It's that asking for help, I think, is also coming into this as well, Nick. I think,
and to be honest, it's usually blokes, from being really honest. It's often blokes that think the ego's there. I can do this myself. Ask for help.
But we'll look at,
I'll just go on YouTube instead. I'll find a video on YouTube and that'll tell me how to do it.
Yeah. I mean, we even now, I think I'll have mentors until we die, because you'll need mentors on so many different levels in your business. So it might be that, you have an overall, property mentor, and then you might have a business related mentor if you're wanting to expand into another income stream elsewhere. But finding someone that is 10 years ahead of you from where you are right now is invaluable. And yeah, it's going to cost you. In fact, we are currently approaching people who are in a position that we'd like to be. Now, they're not mentors. They're not advertising that they are mentors, but we are going to approach them, request that they consider us as mentees, and we will insist on paying them for their time, because if we pay for their advice and their guidance, we're going to value it far more. And I think that's a big lesson we learned way back in the day that we've just continued with over the last 15, 16 years. And I think we'll constantly do it.
I think, honestly, it's a bit of a small-minded attitude of, why would I pay for this? I can do it myself. Well, can you? Firstly, is a question, can you do it yourself? How much time is it going to take you to do it or to learn this when you can just leverage off somebody else? But when at the beginning, we got a mentor to help us just do the basic buy-to-lets.
Yeah.
And that accelerated us really quickly, because we could have dithered about for a couple of years trying to do that, and we did it in less than a year.
Yeah.
So every level, you're right. You need someone that's ahead of you to bring you up to that level. And absolutely, you've got to pay them.
You've got to put yourself in their position, right? You've got a little whippersnapper saying, I want to be like you. Can you help me? Well, of course, people like to help, but how long are they going to be willing to do that and give up their time? Bear in mind that they're I'm assuming successful because you want to be like them. So they've got to get a value out of it. Yeah, they might get a little warm, fuzzy feeling in their belly for helping you and seeing you grow and progress. But there needs to be some skin in it for them. And how many times, Nick, have we heard people saying, oh, I've got my mate's friend's uncle that's a really successful property investor. He's going to help me. I'm like, yeah, what are you paying him? Oh, no, he'll just help me. I'm like, let's see how long that lasts. They might do it for like a couple of months, but then you can't feel that you can ask them every question that comes into your mind, because it's going to get to the point where you feel like you're abusing their time, or they're going to start getting peeved off about how needy and high maintenance you are. And so just having that payment on a monthly retainer or whatever it is, just keeps it very clear that they're a service provider, they're helping you, and then you're requiring their help. And that's how the agreement should be set out.
And then actually you can track like the return on capital for that. So you can return on investment. The right piece of advice there might save us hundreds of thousands of pounds.
Yeah.
Like one bit of advice might save us £1 million. Like genuinely, it might. Right. Yeah. Or a new way of doing something, or an introduction to somebody, you know, at a different level of finance. That could save us tens, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds. You know, and how much are we paying for that advice? I don't know what we might be paying somebody, you know, a few thousand, 10 grand or something like that. But they might save us hundreds of thousands of pounds. It's like, why wouldn't you do that? So, you know, yes, I think thinking you can do it on your own is a recipe for failure. It will take you, at the very best case, it would take you way longer than it ever would have done if you outsource. And
it will cost you more. It will cost you more time, and it will definitely cost you more money for sure. We've talked about the clarity and the vision and the destination, and needing help, asking for help, keeping your ego in check, having a good, strong network around you for learning from other people that can, you know, speed up and accelerate you getting to your destination. What reasons do you think people give up? Because we see that a lot. They might have that strong desire, the fire in the belly, they've got the plan, but then they give up. Life gets in the way, something happens, and you hear excuse after excuse after excuse after excuse. What would you put that down to? I've got my ideas, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, it depends how deep you want to go on this one. People give up because I think they find it hard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it is.
Because it is.
Like, we say it's simple, but it's not easy, right? Because if it's easy, everyone would be already doing it.
The big difference between simple and easy. What we teach is simple, right? The methods we teach, systems we teach, simple. It gets hard though, because you've got to do the work. Or as Arnie says, do the reps, right? You've got to do the work, right? It doesn't just fall out of the sky into your lap. You go, oh, there we go. There's property portfolio, cool. Now let's wait for the HMO portfolio to drop out of the sky into my lap. Right? That just doesn't obviously happen. But all of this really boils down to not prioritizing it highly enough.
Yeah.
If you are honest with yourself, you think about, okay, well, where does building a property portfolio sit in my list of priorities? For most people, family's number one, work number two, blah, 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 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you know, going to the pub on the Friday night with your mates, going to the football, blah, blah. These are all things on your list of priorities. If building property value isn't number two on your list, and if you haven't got a family, you know, at that moment, why isn't number one on your list? If work is above it, it's going to take you longer. Simple as that. Like when we started, this was it. We didn't have, you know, family at the time, apart from each other. So this was number one.
Yeah, but people could say, well, it's easy if you don't have kids then, because kids need to take a lot of time. But I want to talk about Dan and Brad.
Love Dan and Brad. Hope you're listening, chaps.
Yeah, they're a real inspiration, and they're the reason why I keep coming back to training, because you meet people like them, right? You just see a little spark of potential in someone, and you have to slap them about the face a little bit to get them thinking on the right page.
Metaphorically speaking.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, of course, there's no physical violence, right? But they told me at the weekend when I caught up with them that they knew that they needed to earn the same amount of money, work there 5 days a week, but they needed to travel to their investment area. But they have families that they've got commitments to, and so weekends are going to be, tricky and everything else. So what they decided to do was Thursdays and Fridays, they're driving to their investment area. They're spending Thursday and Friday in their investment area, and they're working Saturdays and Sundays so that they earn the same amount of money. And the family would just have to make a short-term sacrifice to not have dads about for a while, but they've got the team all set up now. They've got that whole marketing funnel. They've got the deal funnel coming to them. They're raising the money. And so they don't need to do that week in, week out anymore. It was a hard slog to begin with, but they just dedicated themselves and they were committed to the cause, that they took some tough decisions. And those tough decisions can be uncomfortable and not that favorable. And you think, it's a pain in the hoop to, get in your car super, super early in the morning and drive hundreds of miles north or wherever your investment area is, and then, be away from your family. Yeah, that it doesn't sound attractive, but you only need to maybe do that for a month, maybe even 2 months max. And then it's like, right, we're done with that. We've set it all up. We only need to go up once every couple of months now. But just that little adjustment in their work-life balance and their work patterns gave them 2 days to dedicate then to their investment area. Yeah. And I think, we could tell people to do that, but they've got to want it.
Exactly. And this comes down to, I said, how deep do you want to go on this? It's like, it all comes back to the same thing, right? Yeah. It comes down to how strong your vision is. Simple as that. Now, their vision's like super strong. They know why they're doing it. So it's worth it to them to get up early in the morning and sacrifice a bit of family time to go and get this going.
Yeah.
Right. Because if your vision isn't strong enough, you're going to find ways to not do it.
Let's imagine that everyone is ticking the boxes. So we've got listeners that will be listening to this, that have been desperate to start. They might have the fire in the belly and the clarity in their vision. They'll do whatever. They'll sacrifice whatever time and effort it takes. But they've got a loved one at home that doesn't want them doing it. Right?
Yeah. It's a tough one, isn't it?
Really tough.
If you're in a partnership and one of you has got really strong determination to do something and the other one really doesn't, I think you've got to really look at that situation and go, well, how can I get my partner on board? Yeah. Right. And that is a communication thing. It's a explaining that, this is something that it means a lot. And, it can potentially benefit both of them. And that you have to find a way to bring that partner involved and to support you doing it, even if they actually don't want to do anything. We've got plenty of couples that come through our training whose partner doesn't really do a lot, but they do support. They do get it, but they're not really involved day to day. And that's all right.
I can think of at least one guy that I trained and his wife was just like, nah. She was not into it. She's still not into it. And he's made a success. He's doing really, really well. Son's got involved in the business. All's good. But still just doesn't like the vibe of it. Just thinks it's risky, is nervous. So there are ways of overcoming that. But what I'm trying to say is that stuff happens in people's lives, right? Cool. So the death of a loved one or a health scare or something happening that just knocks them off course. What advice would you give to someone that's maybe had this fantastic plan, everything's going well, and then bosh, a little curveball hits their life and it just knocks them off? It's so easy to give up. It's so easy to stop and carry on just taking the paycheck. What advice would you give them to get back on the horse, if you like, and keep going?
Yeah, well, it's quite common that this would happen. Life can throw you curveballs and knock you off course. I think you just have to acknowledge that that's what's happened. And then if we find people that gravitate back to us, there's a reason they gravitate back to us. It's because the desire to change something is still there. Yeah. So again, we just revisit, sit down, think, okay, well, where is it you want to get to? Yeah, maybe let's bring the timeline a bit nearer. Let's not think about the massive big picture. Let's just think about the next 12 months. Yeah. And, Rick and I run a course on this. Our Power Up course does exactly this. But probably half the people that come on that course are in that situation where they've maybe made a start, been knocked back by something, disappeared, gravitated back to us, and they need a reboot. It's like, great. Okay, look, there's no judgment in the room. It's like, we will just start from scratch. Great. So what we talk about is the 12-week to 12-month plan, which is really about how the next 12 weeks of activity will determine your next 12 months of success.
Yeah.
And that's really focused on just taking action in terms of number one activity is going to view some houses. But it's absolutely about just resetting in terms of the next 12 weeks, what activities you should be doing, And honestly, if anyone ever wants a reset, that's my best piece of advice. And then we've done the same thing when we've been looking at a reset, and we've had times where we've had to reboot or change a strategy. The first thing to do is make some appointments to go and view some property that fit the criteria of what you're trying to do. Just start that process, and that really just re-engages you into it. You start remembering, okay, I remember what I'm supposed to be doing. I know why I'm doing this, and just actually being in a house and looking at it and viewing it, running the numbers on it, it just gets you back in, and you start seeing the pathway again. And that's all it is, really. It's just kind of clearing away all the obstacles in the way of getting you where you want to go.
Well, I love psychology, and I love studying human behavior and why we do what we do and take the actions that we take. But it's so easy to get complacent and fall into habits and just coast.
Yep.
Because when things are, you might have a period of activity to get to a destination. You get to that destination and you're like, we're here. And then you're like, hang on a minute. Is this really the final destination? Maybe we need to readdress what the next step is after this destination. This is just the step. This is just a little stopgap. And then a little flurry of activity till the next destination. But, people can find themselves for years and years and years coasting in a particular destination because they think, oh, I don't know the alternative, or I don't know what the next step would be. And like you say, that staying close to people who are in a position you'd like to be in goes a long way. We've just gone on viewings just to have conversations with the estate agent, because you just don't know what names they're going to mention, what other opportunities they're going to talk about that are coming onto the market in the coming months. And suddenly you're like, oh, I must reach out to that person over there and meet them. Oh, I must do this, I must do that. And suddenly your diary's filling up with meetings that then evolve into other directions that really help you get to the next level.
So that's what we help people do, is to reset, reboot, start generating the opportunities, start generating the activity, and then doors will open and things will start moving again.
Well, I think the topic of this podcast is really interesting. The whole, why do people fail in property? That word failure, I just want to do a very short piece on, because actually failure is, well, what you think it is. And one of the greatest fears I'm constantly helping people with is their fear of failure. And actually, what that then leads to is them doing nothing. They're so scared of failing or losing that they actually don't even start. So while we're today talking about having a strong vision and having a path that you choose and creating the activity and all that stuff, people don't even get to that point because they're terrified of potentially losing what they currently have. They feel that they're risking something in order to get something better. And so I love Michael Jordan when he talks about the number of baskets that he's missed, the number of games that he's lost and being trusted to take the winning, shots at basket, and the number of times he's failed throughout his career. But actually, we all know, well, he's a worldwide brand, Michael Jordan, Nike, a multi-billion-dollar industry, but also one of the world's greatest of all-time basketball players, right? So in actual fact, you have to fail in order to grow and to progress. Today's podcast is obviously about how people mess up, how they don't get to where they want to get to. But please don't allow that fear of failure to stop you even trying, because my definition of failure is either giving up or not even starting. We have a little mantra in our house, and even the boys from a very young age is Claydons never give up. We never give up. We never give up. I mean, it has backfired on me a couple of times with them when I'm asking them to put on their shoes and I say, I give up. And they go, Claydons never give up. But I think that word failure, if you can reframe that in your mind, will help you as well to just take the baby steps. It doesn't need to be something massive. It doesn't need to feel like it's going to be all encompassing and risking everything to achieve. Just make that first little step on deciding that you want something different to what you currently have. That's it. That first decision in itself is progress. Then the next step is finding someone to help you get to that progression and changing what you currently have. And then everything will just cascade from there. If you just keep making those very small decisions and asking for help and finding people around you that can help you do it.
You're absolutely right. It's like, I would say the biggest risk of all is not doing anything, right? That is the biggest risk. You're only here once, depending on your beliefs. But my belief is you're only here once. You've got to make the most of it. So you don't want to be looking back when you're older thinking, I wish I'd done that. Everyone wishes you started there. We wish we'd started doing this 10 years earlier, but whatever. We still started. It's inevitable. You can't avoid failure.
Yeah. And actually we should really go for it.
Embrace it.
Yeah, and go for it.
It sounds really flippant and easy to say, let's embrace failure and all that. But look, it's going to hurt when it happens.
Yeah, definitely. We've had many a bruise along the way, but that every bruise that you get actually makes you stronger. And it's a lesson. I'm just like, I'm all about the gratitude, right? Thank you for the lesson, universe. You did that to me to teach me something so I don't have a much bigger bruise later on, right? So yeah, I think keeping it all in perspective and making sure that, like I say, you've got the right people around you. Keep working on yourself each day, and be really self-aware of your psychology and that little voice of what it's saying to you all the time, because I tell you, it's your worst enemy.
Yeah, but there's lots of little things you can do, like really easy things to subscribe to a couple of podcasts that, you can hear stories of people that have been successful. I love that. I listen to loads all the time. And you can generally see common themes in all these stories.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's no one that you can think of that has been successful that hasn't had elements of failure. Like even Richard Branson, he's launched loads of businesses that failed.
Yeah.
But he keeps launching them because he only needs 1 out of 10 to be successful.
Yeah.
Pays for all the failures.
I hope that our listeners can hear that we've got a lot of years under our belt of experiencing people who have made many mistakes over the years. And we're keen to try and help as many people as we can enjoy investing in property with all the stresses and strains and bruises along the way. So if you are interested in joining our network and being close to us, then by all means, head to our website, propertywealthsystem.co.uk, and also you can follow me, CarolineClaydon.property on Instagram or any social media platform. I am there, as well as Nick Claydon on Instagram. Hope you've enjoyed our podcast today, and join us again next week for some more great content.
Thanks, Caroline.
Thanks, Nick.